So, the Quran claims that the sustenance of living beings is guaranteed by Allah in these and similar verses, asserting that Allah is responsible for the sustenance of every living creature. However, we see that according to statistics, a person dies of hunger every 4 seconds on Earth. On average, 20,000 people die of hunger every day, totaling 8 million people a year. Then, this claim of the Quran is refuted. So, let's examine this question together within a logical framework, along with the evidence. Let's see if, as the atheists say, this claim of the Quran is indeed falsified or not. Really right. If Allah is responsible for sustenance, why do people starve? I would like to briefly touch on a point. Even someone who encounters this question can still answer it by observing the universe. Allah provides sustenance for the eagle, the worm underground, the fish, and the baby in the womb. Allah also feeds the blue whale, the mosquito, and microorganisms invisible to the naked eye. Because when we look at the universe, it is Allah who provides sustenance for the eagle flying thousands of meters high, the worm under the ground, the fish at the bottom of the sea, and the baby in the womb. Or it is the same God who provides the daily sustenance of 4 tons for a 150-ton blue whale, the daily sustenance of 1 microliter for a mosquito, and the sustenance of microorganisms that are too small to be seen with our naked eye. Can we really say that Allah, who creates millions of animal and plant species like these, each with countless individuals that have different stomachs and foods, couldn't feed the children in Africa? So, we must understand from this that the issue is actually something else. Then, of course, we need to understand from here that the issue is actually different. Is Allah responsible for sustenance? Bediüzzaman Hazretleri answers this question as follows. And there is no creature on earth but that its sustenance is upon Allah. This verse clearly puts sustenance under guarantee. So, this is Surah Hud verse 6. From the clarity and explicit statement of this verse, we understand that sustenance is under Allah's guarantee. Then he says, however, the sustenance we are talking about has 2 parts. True sustenance, metaphorical sustenance. So there is essential sustenance and non-essential sustenance. This is the essential part that is guaranteed by the verse. Yes, food is provided, to the extent that it sustains life. The metaphorical sustenance, however, is not under the guarantee of the verse, but it depends on the measure and the portion. So, from Bediüzzaman's statements, we understand that sustenance actually has 2 parts. One is the true sustenance, which is the food that a person needs to sustain their life. Here, Allah informs us He is responsible for this part of sustenance. The other part of sustenance is metaphorical sustenance. In other words, it is the sustenance that provides pleasure, enjoyment, and comfort beyond the essential needs, and Allah does not guarantee this type of sustenance. This metaphorical sustenance is left to a person's own efforts. For example, 3 dates would sustain a person, but if you choose lavish meals like Iskender kebab or roasted lamb, Allah is not responsible for this. Let me roll a kunefe alongside 1.5 portions of Iskender for lunch. If you say, let me have a roasted lamb in the evening, then Allah is not responsible for this kind of sustenance. So, He is not responsible for your luxury and comfort. He has tied this to your work and effort. Now, that we've understood this part, we need to ask this question. If Allah is responsible for the true sustenance that is essential for people's survival, then why are there people who die of hunger? Actually, this question is quite multifaceted, so we need to examine it from a few different angles. First, let's look at this question from Bediüzzaman's perspective. He says, it is the truth. There are no people who die due to lack of sustenance. This seems like a very contradictory answer right now, because the statistics show the exact opposite in a completely contrary way. It says that 8 million people die of hunger each year, but then it says that because those are the cells of the body. So he sends a part of the sustenance he has named to his body, claims it in the form of charity for necessity, or he claims it in the form of necessity. He says that Allah preserves a part of the food that a person eats by storing it in their body for precautionary purposes. That's really how it is. The food we eat provides energy, excess stored as glycogen and fat. When food is scarce, reserves sustain life. Sustenance lasts about 40 days, a natural limit. When the body doesn't receive food supplements in the future, the sustenance stored in these reserves starts to be used, and the person is again provided with sustenance for the continuation of their life. Then he says that the sustenance that is united in the body of a living being continues perfectly for about 40 days as a natural limit. In fact, due to an illness or a spiritual state, it can exceed 2.40. So, a person can live for 40 days without dying, even if they don't eat at all, thanks to this sustenance.